Hey, what's happening, gang? You are live. This is, of course, Real Talk Radio San Diego. I'm your host, Jesse Abanez. We call this the Secret Stash, baby, because we always got some cool local people talking about some cool local stuff. And I promise that we're going to be bringing it today because flanked on the table in studio live is a word. I'm going to call you a word right now. You are actually, you're a few words, but the word I'm riffing on right now is one that you might not be familiar with. Over the next hour, we're going to learn about fiduciary. It's like the password, like the word is fiduciary.
Yes, word of the day. Fiduciary.
It's kind of one of those words like you hear smart people kind of riff on from time to time. You don't really know how impactful it can be for you, your life, your family, your assets, the legacy you lead, etc. And that's why we have the honor and the gift of Marguerite Lorenz coming in from Lorenz Fiduciary Services. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
For joining us today.
I'm excited.
And I mean, I'm not even going to belabor this because, you know, I was admitting to you in the green room that I didn't even know this word existed until probably about a month ago. So I'm guessing that if you were like me, you're wondering, what in the world is the space that you occupy? So I'm going to give you the mic, literally and figuratively. Why don't you lay this down? Who are you, and what in the world do you do?
Well, I'm Marguerite Lorenz. I'm a California licensed professional fiduciary. And a fiduciary has the same root word as Semper Fi.
Ooh.
Right?
Hoo-yah.
Yeah. I mean, we have a duty of loyalty. And to whom do I have that duty of loyalty is part of what we'll talk about today. Yeah. You know, I'm fascinated that you didn't know what the word was, but yet you have an estate plan.
Right.
You already have a trust, you have wills, you have powers of attorney, you probably even have advanced health care directives.
I do.
The people you picked, who are probably people you love and you feel know you quite well, but those people you picked are your fiduciaries. Your brother, your sister-in-law, you know, those people, when they take on the role of trustee, executor, agent under the power of attorney for finance, agent under your advanced healthcare directive, their official role would be fiduciary. Fiduciary covers all of those jobs. So let me give you a basic definition.
Please.
Fiduciary is someone who's given a great responsibility and has a duty of loyalty to the creator of the estate plan.
Hoo-yah.
Right?
Yeah, and I love how you frame that, too. And if I can ask for the poetic license to sort of decompartmentalize, because I bet that you deal with this bias more than anybody. And I deal with this a lot, even in my, role that I play in helping folks get into and out of homes. Hey, unfortunately, the big 3 Ds, a lot of them have to do with estate plan. And it's glaringly obvious to me how few people know what you do, and part and parcel to the concept of an estate plan in the first place, because if they don't, they end up with the big P. And that's probate, of course.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And so to decompartmentalize the idea of an estate plan, I think is a good place to start. So, I mean, first and foremost, you're not an estate planning lawyer.
No. Big difference between drafting the documents and implementing the documents.
Right.
So I get it. You think you can go on one of those internet sites and download documents.
We won't name any names.
But the point is that you need the conversation. You need someone to guide you in terms of all these considerations. You're asking someone to take on the responsibility for everything.
Right.
Tax, legal, financial, medical decisions.
Kids.
Well, sure, and their future and how they're raised. So you're young, you're married, you have little ones. It's smart to have an estate plan if you're in those circumstances. What about if you're single? Well, you need it even more. I mean, who's going to come to your rescue where you are right now? And what's your plan? What is your plan if you're not driving anymore? I have an experiment for you, Jesse.
Yeah.
Okay, so the keys in your pocket, the car in the parking lot, gone. Who's going to come pick you up from the studio today when your show is done and get you home so you can sleep in your own bed tonight?
Well, luckily Adrian's here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, having a producer. Not everyone has one, right?
I doubt I'll name you as the fiduciary, Adrian, but at least you'll get me home.
But you have given him some very serious responsibilities.
Right.
Okay, and so we could use Adrian as an example of someone who has a fiduciary role in your life because he manages getting guests, he communicates on your behalf, and you're trusting him to bring it. Right? But when I give you the example of who's going to pick you up today, I want your listeners to really think about this. You're at work. Something happens. Did you expect it? Well, we have to have a general plan, right? We live in California. Don't we have extra water and rations or something, right, in case an earthquake
Well, the water's
happens?
suspect right now, but yeah.
Well, I want you to know that I have emergency supplies because I have to think that way.
You're also Mormon.
No. You don't have to be Mormon to have a plan in case of an emergency.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
No.
But the point is that if you've planned for that, if you've bought insurance of any kind, you know something could happen that you don't want to have happen.
Right.
Okay. So if you have insurance, you should have an estate plan. Period. How do you get an estate plan? Well, I recommend that you find an attorney that you can develop a relationship with.
Yeah.
The reason is because the attorney does a lot more than just prepare your documents. This is the person who knows what you look like when you're sane. You know, someone might challenge that you didn't have competence when you made your documents.
I never thought about that.
So you need to have not just the paperwork. And by the way, the papers don't do anything for you. You sign it, you create a trust, you have a plan. Good. Now you still have to fund your plan. And I'll explain what that means. Funding essentially means that you title your assets in the name of the trust. The trust can only control the properties, accounts, assets you have that are actually titled in its name.
And that's the thing that's so crazy about my profession, too, because a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but there's times where someone will have a trust, but the property in question is not even being represented in the trust.
And it happens sometimes in the refinance process. You know, you have to get a refinance.
Oh,
they want it in your own name. The mortgage lender doesn't want to deal with your legal issues. Okay, cool. So you take the deed, you put it in your own name, you do the refinance. Oh, but in escrow you forgot and it doesn't go back in the trust.
Marguerite, this admission could not be more timely. I literally took a call right before I went on vacation of a family that is exactly going through this. And you want to know what? This is like the worst case scenario possible, so it sounds doom and gloom, but it's the truth. They have to let their home go to foreclosure.
Oh.
It's the mom's house.
Fail.
And they had a trust. They did a refinance. The escrow company said they were going to put it back in. They didn't put it back in. And now, and I don't want to get in, that's a whole rabbit hole, right? But like, I literally had that experience like 3 weeks ago.
So I'm going to drop another bomb on you, Jesse.
Yeah.
You are the fiduciary for your family currently.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're the trustor, creator, settlor, grantor, those are all the same names for the person who creates the trust in the first place.
Right.
You have responsibilities that go beyond just signing the documents. Now you have to make sure, like if you go to the market and you buy groceries and you don't put them into the refrigerator, what happens?
They rot.
You know, it's no good.
Yeah.
So you have to make a plan. You have to consider that you get this plan put together. It has a name. And it's the Jesse Ibanez Family Trust, okay? And there you are. You're on.
Yeah.
But now you have to title those assets appropriately. And you should really work with a good estate planning attorney.
Well, there's no question. And this is exactly what we're talking about today. I guess maybe primer part one is we're talking about what in the world. We're talking about fiduciary. We're explaining it, how you, I guess by Marguerite's admission, have to have at least a conscious plan. And then there's some structure that goes around it. We'll introduce all those concepts. But you got to know what you're doing first. So that's why Marguerite has got you covered. She's got her class, Estate Planning 101. She's got all kinds of classes all throughout June, all throughout July, all throughout August. And you can go to estateplanning101.org to sign up for our next one. Marguerite, thank you so much for being in the house. We got so much more coming up, including what in the world an estate plan is in the first place. We'll get into that right after this. Real Talk Radio San Diego. Don't go nowhere.
Your golden years. You've planned for everything. But have you really covered all your bases? Let us help you learn to ask the right questions. Do your plans consider changes to your health? Will you have enough money to maintain your quality of life? And who's going to help you when you need help? The Salvation Army and their charity partners present Estate Planning 101, a series of free classes that will educate and empower you as you plan for your future. Free classes start June 2nd. Visit estateplanning101.org and register today.
All right, we're back. And you were live in the Secret Stash. I'm your host, Jesse Ibanez, co-founder of the Greenhouse Group. And talking, I guess, part and parcel to what we do, of course, Marguerite, which is helping folks get into and out of homes here in San Diego County. And we come across this concept all too often, more than I even want to admit, which is where, you know, I hate to say it, an unforeseen, because, I mean, come on, what's the only two things in life you can count on, which is death and taxes?
Right.
Right? So people are going to die. and if they've got assets like real property, we come into this all too often. That's why we got Marguerite in the house. Now, Marguerite Lorenz, she owns the Lorenz Fiduciary Services. You can catch her at mytrustee, that's with 2es.net, or call her anytime at 877-630-8448. Again, that's 877-630-8448. But what we're talking about today specifically is her class.
Right.
Now, she's got an amazing... The reason why, Marguerite, come on, help us out with this. This is a lot, right? It's like taking a drink from a fire hose. We just learned what fiduciary was 5 minutes ago.
Well,
okay?
If you consider all of your life, all the responsibilities you have now, all the choices that you've ever made, and you're asking someone to keep that going, because death is not the only triggering event when your trustee goes to work for you. You could become incapacitated.
Right.
You could choose to resign.
The fall that changes everything.
Oh, yeah. When the crisis occurs, are we going to let the crisis make the decision? I'm saying no.
Right.
We're not going to let the crisis make the decision. We're going to get ahead of it. We're going to know that something could happen sometime, and I want my family, my fiduciary, my world to know what my choices are. I'm setting my intentions in these documents, but where do you start?
And the key, I think, that you said, which was a big aha for me, is that every one of these plans, even if it's not even in a trust, has a fiduciary.
That's right.
Like, there's somebody who's carrying this stuff out. So the question is, are you controlling who it is, or is somebody else?
Right.
And you might not even be there. I'm pointing to my dome right now, if you can see the YouTube. You might not even be there mentally anymore to be able to make that choice.
Right.
So maybe your brother's really good with kids. Okay, cool. Or maybe your sister's the one that needs to do the finances. Or maybe neither of them have you talked to in 20 years and they all hate your guts. And you know what I mean?
Right.
So do you want to judge? To say, oh, hey, I guess you're the oldest kid, so you do everything. Maybe, but maybe you don't. And maybe it's actually high time that you start putting some of these things in place before the unfortunate thing happens to you.
And maybe only the listeners who believe they have control over their own choices in their own life will carry out and take some action. But if you want to understand what questions to ask, if you want to understand the concepts, come to Estate Planning 101.
Right.
EstatePlanning101.org. It's free to attend. This is a strictly charity-sponsored program. There's nothing being sold at the program. We don't sell financial products. We're not selling estate plans. And none of the presenters get any of the students' contact information.
So why are you doing the class then?
Because I've seen what happens when people don't make their choices.
Okay.
Conservatorship is worse than probate. Consider probate.
Well, that's true.
Okay, so probate is a court procedure to transfer the title, transfer the ownership.
It's about as fun as doing expensive dentistry on yourself.
Yeah, but only painful for your beneficiaries. Understand that nobody becomes a beneficiary until someone dies.
Right, well said.
So if you've become incapacitated and you haven't a plan, you haven't set anything forth in writing about what you want, and you haven't paid your bills, or you've barricaded yourself inside your house, or you don't want to see a doctor because someone's going to take away your driver's license, that's the crisis. And now your friends or family or your neighbor can bring a conservatorship against you. You lose the right to vote. You lose the right to marry, which may not be a bad thing. You get to lose, you lose so much of who you are in your personhood. You lose the right to contract. So keep your rights, keep your control, keep your decisions in your life the way you want it, and do the estate plan. Is it uncomfortable? Is it expensive? Yeah, but it's a lot less uncomfortable or expensive than probate or conservatorship.
And that's exactly where right before the break we left off. And I want to pick your brain about this too, because not everybody who's coming into this conversation right now live knows even what an estate plan is. They've heard the word, but they don't really know the integrated complexity that kind of works within it. So we've dumbed it down for you, and that's why we got Marguerite in the house. So let me hit a couple. I'll put you in the hot seat, Marguerite.
Sure.
First of all, in maybe one sentence, exactly what is an estate plan?
The estate plan is your written intentions for what will happen if you become incapacitated, you resign, or you die.
Exactly, right? So let's keep it really simple, stupid. What documents typically are included in the estate plan?
Well, if you have property, if you have any wealth, if you have something you might need a trust, you need to talk to your attorney about whether a trust is required or not. But the other basic documents which are required are your will.
Right.
And your will only operates after you die, and it gives the name of an executor. If you have a trust, it refers to the trust. And by the way, when a will gets lodged with the county, it becomes the public document. Your trust stays private.
Interesting.
So when you see these celebrity deaths and so on, it's their will that told us that they have a trust. The other documents, the power of attorney for finance. You're naming an agent, someone that can transact for you on the items that are not titled in the name of the trust. Your Social Security payments, your IRA, maybe your car title. Your car usually isn't titled in the name of the trust unless it's really worth a lot of money.
Right.
The last document, your Advanced Healthcare Directive, controls what care you receive. Now, the medical community is always going to ask you first. But if you can't comprehend the question or you can't answer it, now your agent is called into play. And I'll tell you, my 12 years of being a fiduciary, pulling the plug is a rare decision. The decision more typically is, where will this person convalesce after surgery? So you're on pain meds. You're in pain. You've had this terrible traumatic experience, and now somebody's going to cart you off to a convalescent place because the hospital needs your bed. Where do you go? And here comes your beautiful niece from out of state, and she's given a list of places to choose from, and she picks the one that says sunshine in it because it sounds nice. And this is where you end up, and you're there for 3 weeks until you come to, and you go, where the hell did my life go?
And this is key, too, because you talk about the intentions expressed.
Right.
Like, that's a really key operative word in the game, right? Because all throughout these things, whose intentions are being expressed?
Better be mine. So I am a control freak, self-admitted. I'm a fiduciary. This is my trade. This is what I do every day.
You got in where you fit in.
Well, sure. And I'm growing where I'm planted, for sure.
Yeah.
But the point is that, we have a responsibility to ourselves to make our wishes known. Now, I may change my mind. So the other cool thing about an estate plan is it's a dynamic, living thing. It goes along with your life. If you are 50 plus years old, every 5 years you can update your documents, and you may not have to update them, but you need to think about them. Do I still want these beneficiaries? Do I still have these circumstances? Do I still have these properties or these bank accounts? Is the bank name even the same as when I started? Chances are good it's not. So,
True.
So you have changes to make. You want to think about it. Once you hit 60...
Your relationships change with the people noted.
Well, sure. Your children move away. Do they call you anymore? Do you even like them?
Right.
I mean, it's a consideration.
You mentioned a great point about location.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, sometimes, depending how you structure things, you need multiple signatures for money. Well, what if one guy's over in New York now, or God forbid, out of the country?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a decision about the administration of your trust. And we have an experience with some administration. Look at a presidential administration. There's lots of decision makers, lots of people involved, but ultimately one president. Well, how would it look if we had two presidents? Does that mean two people have to sign every check, every new rule, everything? And consider that. I mean, are you forcing family members to work together? And what really happens with that is that the one co-trustee who does all the work could be derailed by someone who doesn't usually do it but goes and opens another bank account. You really have to think about it and talk with your attorney about your expectations.
I love this, too, because, we don't want to get all morbid on folks, right?
No.
I mean, this is ESPN Talk Radio. We should be talking about, highfalutin superstars going into the conference finals and whatnot. But, again, the reality of the situation is that it seems as though the population, and we'll call them the boomers, right? They're entering into that phase where they got assets. They were part of the greatest,
wealth transfer.
Thank you. In the history of time.
Right.
According to people.
But what I'm talking about isn't about the money.
Fair enough. But what it still suggests, though, is that if you're maybe their heir, or you're the kind of one who's maybe coming up, you're not thinking about these things yet. Sometimes it's time for you to start thinking about it for them and get them into the conversation, get them to this class,
right,
so that you and them can be educated on what's going to happen if you don't have a plan.
Right. Come to estateplanning101.org. Register for class. You have to register before you get to come to class. We have limited seats, and we are filling up. But the thing that's happening now is that I'm seeing more people become aware. We're doing our own research on the internet. We're figuring out this financial stuff.
You're learning just enough to get yourself in trouble.
Maybe.
Which is why DIY is sometimes a false positive.
Well, it doesn't work. First of all, none of us can really be objective about our own situation.
Right.
But I'll share my own story with you.
Please.
Okay. I'm a single mom, have been for a long time. I just got married last summer. I love you, Ken.
Booyah.
But the idea is I have two sons. First, I promised they'd never have to bathe me Okay.
Right.
They are now 19 and 21 years old. I love them. I trust them. I think they're really intelligent young men, but their brotherhood means more to me than them taking care of me. Understand that if one of them gets the checkbook, it could really destroy whatever they have of their relationship.
Interesting.
These are the same kids that used to fight for the front seat of the car.
That's an incredible high level of thinking to...
Yes, please. I'm inviting everyone to think about this. Your estate plan is your oxygen mask. Please take care of yourself first before you expect to take care of anyone else. So with my sons, my beautiful, wonderful, sweet sons, I made a decision to have a professional trustee because I see what happens. I have a great story for you. I'm with a family. Mom has just passed away. The 3 kids come to my office. They want to see who I am. They want to meet me in person. Great. The baby of the family, 56 years old, tough as nails, has her own brokerage, right? But everybody treats her as the baby of the family. She can't get away from it when she's with these people. The eldest, 70 years old, big spread between the 3 kids, right? Called shotgun as they left my office. Get that. The dynamic never goes away.
Yeah,
and you're
that's
asking
true.
These people to run your life, take care of things, agree about everything. I mean, we don't even agree about everything with our spouses. Why would we think our children, who now have separate lives, are completely different adults, and have spouses of their own, how are we expecting them to agree about everything?
And psychologists will back you up on that, too, because once an ego inside of a relationship is established, it's really hard for that thing to evolve.
Jesse, I live in the lab. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and I, of course, experienced that, too. So you can kind of see, right? I mean, this is why, Marguerite, I'm so grateful that you decided to come in today and educate us on this, because I am, unfortunately, the guy who gets these problems downstream. You've heard the old joke about the doctors, right? They're all rescuing the people out of the water, and then the one doctor finally looks up and goes, I'm going to go see where all these bodies are coming from. Like, that's why you have the role that you do. Unfortunately, the difference, although you're seeing optimistic that the awareness is now there, I'm not seeing enough structure in place. I'm getting too many families with homes that are too far down the line that end up falling right into probate if they're lucky, or God forbid, like we talked about, this family doesn't even have an option because now they got to go to foreclosure because they didn't put their trust back in after the refinance.
Yeah, I would like to see everyone selling or buying real estate in California get our brochure on who needs a professional fiduciary.
And it's pretty, too.
Oh, it is pretty. It is pretty. But it is going to be offered for free on your website.
Thank you.
For all your Secret Stash listeners. It'll be a PDF.
SecretStashRadio.com. Yep.
And I think that'll be really helpful for people to get their heads around it. By the way, I'm going to Sacramento this afternoon. I have a role on the advisory committee for the Licensing Bureau. I was appointed by Governor Brown a few years ago. And we talk about licensees. We talk about consumers. It's through the Department of Consumer Affairs. If you're interested in that, you can find fiduciary.ca.gov. I'll say it again, fiduciary.ca.gov. If you're interested in this profession, are you a natural control freak? Do you like paying bills? Do you like taking care of other people? Is that important to you?
Yeah.
There are fewer than 800 active licensees in the whole state of California.
Marguerite, thank you so much for your infinite experience and expertise around this, but I'm not done with you yet, girl.
Okay.
So coming back right after the break, we're going to learn a little bit more about exactly what are the components and elements that go into this. We're going to dig a little bit into her book, Ethics for Trustees. You are an author. Love you for that. And then again, driving the point about the need to get to the class, estateplanning101.org. She's got classes in June, July, and August. Check it out. Marguerite Lorenz. We'll be right back.
Your golden years. You've planned for everything. But have you really covered all your bases? Let us help you learn to ask the right questions. Do your plans consider changes to your health? Will you have enough money to maintain your quality of life? And who's going to help you when you need help? The Salvation Army and their charity partners present Estate Planning 101, a series of free classes that will educate and empower you as you plan for your future. Free classes start June 2nd. Visit estateplanning101.org and register today.
My man Steve bringing it live. We got your 10:35 hour here on ESPN Radio 1700. You're in the Secret Stash, baby. This is Real Talk Radio San Diego. I'm your host, Jesse Ibanez, co-founder of the Greenhouse Group, helping you get into and out of home, sure, but moving people with purpose, you bet. Flanked in the studio today, I got something that's super near and dear to my business, specifically because I see too many folks too far down the line without the plans in place further upstream to help protect their family from costs to help protect, making sure they know where their assets are going to go, the time frames. Sometimes you'll lose them altogether. We riffed on that a little bit earlier. Marguerite Lorenz, owner of Lorenz Fiduciary Services. You can catch her, of course, at MyTrustee. That's got with 2es.net, mytrustee.net, or call her anytime at 877-630-8448. But you know what, Marguerite? You've got this class.
Right.
And I love me some live classes because then you can kind of sit back with a fly on the wall and you can pick apart the key themes and elements on the one-to-one basis, even though it's kind of a one-to-many, you're in a group setting, but still, that you got to make sure that you know before you go, right? So do you mind if I dig into this a little bit with you?
Sure, go ahead.
I got your syllabus here, right? So it's a 4-part educational workshop series. You've got them all around town. I know you're down here at the Salvation Army, actually, at the Citadel Corps.
Right, starting June 2nd. And we meet Tuesday, Thursday, and we do 2 classes at each meeting. So it's about 3 hours, 15 minutes. We get in at 9. We try to finish by noon.
Fair enough. So you can still go about the rest of your day.
Right.
Okay, good. So, you talk about things, of course, like quality of life, things we talked about earlier in the show, like advanced healthcare, directive conservatorship, durable powers of attorney. That's a critical one. But, rather than doing just a syllabus and a list, why don't you share with me, like, what's like one of the stories that you remember of maybe a recent attendee that had like a really big aha? Can I put you on the spot with that?
Well, sure. Students are so precious to me. They give me feedback. They talk to me about what they're learning. They share their feelings with me. Often it's the spouse who's already taken care of the finances who comes to class. The other spouse is usually very reluctant. They don't want to think about it. They're worried about really thinking about their mortality.
Well, who does?
Yeah, I know. But I'm fascinated by the reasons people have that they don't come to class. And the class is an easy way for you to really understand the complexity. So I'll give you an example. We have a student who has 3 kids. They live in 3 different states. None of them are in California. And initially she named all 3 as co-trustees. And her reasoning was because she didn't want anyone's feelings
Probably
to be
fair,
hurt.
Right? It makes sense.
Well, and she wants them all to be informed at the same time. And one of the things that she learned in our class is that the fiduciary, whoever has that role, family member, friend, other professional or professional fiduciary, has a duty to keep those beneficiaries informed. They get to have the information at the same time. The equality is not about the transactions so much or the distributions. The equality is really in the communications that they receive. And it gave her a lot of assurance. She told me personally, quietly, privately, that now she wasn't afraid to go to the attorney.
Well, now her secret is safe.
Right. But she knows who I'm talking about, but no one else does.
Yeah.
But the idea is that she feels empowered now. She realizes if you sign the check to pay the attorney, you are the boss. The attorney's there to advise you, is to be your representative, is to be your advocate. And if you know what questions to ask, you are powerful. And that's really what we give people in these classes.
Yeah, fair enough. But, you get into some weeds here, right? I mean, we're talking even down to charitable giving.
Oh, and mine is the only class where we actually give you a comparison between charitable gift annuities and reverse mortgage.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Okay, so a lot of folks...
Give me an example about that.
So you've paid off your house. You've lived there for 30 years. And there's a lot of marketing about reverse mortgage. And it looks so easy. But what you may not realize is that you could pay upwards of 29.99% for borrowing from yourself. It is... an interesting business. I appreciate that sometimes a reverse mortgage really is the answer.
Sometimes. Key operative.
But here's the thing. A lot of people buy financial products like a reverse mortgage, an annuity, or other things in a vacuum. They don't tell anybody. It's a secret. They're embarrassed, and so on. And because they're not relying on their professionals, because they haven't talked to anyone about this, they don't know what the alternatives might be. So with a reverse mortgage, the ultimate might be that you give away your house. Right? I'm either giving my house to the reverse mortgage lender, or I could give my house to charity. So I get it. Sometimes the reverse mortgage...
But you get to keep your house, though. That's the key element of the reverse mortgage.
Do you? I mean, what if you have to go to assisted living? Now you have your fall, the crisis that makes the decision, and now you're not in your house. What does that fine print say? How long can you stay in that house? How long can you keep it before the lender gets it back? Because you are not the primary resident anymore.
Oh, what do you mean the owner-occupied? Right.
Owner-occupied. Isn't that interesting?
Right.
What if you had a life estate? So you work with a charity. Not only do you get to keep your house, you could rent it out while you're not using it. Wow, there's a concept. What about the tax deductions you get? You don't get tax deductions by using a reverse mortgage. You do if you do the charitable gift annuity. And if you want more details, come to my class, estateplanning101.org.
I love it.
Okay, come register for class. And it's not against the reverse mortgage industry. I don't want anyone to feel that way. I'm saying that as a smart consumer, if you really want to be smarter than everybody else, right, then the idea is that you have to get some education. And I'm sorry, they don't teach this stuff in high school and college. You can't just pick this stuff up on the internet. People ask me, well, is there a book on this topic? Sweetheart, if you want the book, come to my class.
Well, it happens to be.
Yeah, well,
because, I mean, this may not be exactly part and parcel, but this is a key because the book is called Ethics for Trustees.
It is, and it deals with those conflicts of interest,
right.
And the family member being the trustee. And it's helpful and it's a guide, but if you really want the nitty-gritty, if you really want to understand what it costs to stay in your home no matter what, if you want to understand what it costs to get an estate plan, if you want to understand how to work with professionals, come to my safe, free class.
And you got them all around, too. It's not just like, oh, it's that one date that we're going to be at the wedding. You're going to be June 2nd and 4th. That's down in Balboa Avenue. That's down at the Salvation Army, the Citadel Corps, like we talked about.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the second round is then on the 9th and the 11th. But you actually have to go online and reserve your seat, though.
Right, or you can call us, 888-701-1954.
And I'd rather, just because it's easy to remember, it's the estateplanning101.org.
Correct.
And you go on there, you get all the information, you can reserve your seat.
I actually have the trademark.
Now, if, in fact, that does not work for you, that grouping, you're also going to be up at San Diego State.
Right. We're at the KPBS studio. We're in the Shiley studio, in the television studio, doing our class.
Which, by the way, that's such a cool spot, too.
It's awesome.
That's a great little backdrop for that. You're going to be in there in the middle of July 14th, 16th, and then again, the continuation class on the 21st and 23rd.
Right. And then our last sessions are going to be at Cal State San Marcos.
Up at CSU, right.
I had my first experience teaching at Cal State San Marcos last summer, and they were so excited about the program, and the Plan Giving Department all attended our classes. It was awesome.
Well, how could you not be? Because, I mean, the truth is, if I'm trying to be in this conversation with the beginner's heart, and I'm not far from that truth removed, because I had shared at the top of the hour, I didn't even know this word existed until a few months ago, right? So if in fact you are, and you even made the, maybe even a little jokingly, but even if you only own a car, you had said, right?
Well, if you have a body.
At any age with a body or even a car, anything whatsoever, you need to have some of these structures in place.
You know, I teach this stuff. I've done career day at a junior high school in Fallbrook for a few years in a row. So this is a group of 13 and 14-year-olds, and they understand these concepts. So let me give you an example, okay? You have one piece of cake, and you have two boys.
Yeah.
How are you going to share the cake? What usually happens? So how does it work in your family, Jesse?
Well, the oldest one gets the bite first, and the youngest one gets the scraps.
Oh, not in my estimation. No. You have one brother who cuts, and the other one picks. But if the same brother gets to cut...
Well, that's a fair household you live in.
Yeah. But what if one brother gets to cut and pick? You know, nobody likes that. Everybody feels uncomfortable. And we didn't talk about the character of that brother.
Right.
You know, so he might give the bigger piece to his younger brother, right? So, you know, the idea is that we have to have a plan. We have to have something in writing that really lays out how this is going to go to avoid conflicts.
Well, that's why we got you, Marguerite Lorenz, owner, of course, of Lorenz Fiduciary Services. You can, of course, catch her at her private practice anytime at mytrustee.net or calling her directly at 877-630-8448. Again, that's 877-630-8448. But please, if you do anything, go check out her class. It's estateplanning101.org. She's got classes at June, July, August, anywhere from down here in Balboa all the way up to CSU San Marcos. And coming up, Marguerite, we're going to round out this hour with something that I think you're going to enjoy. I know I'm going to enjoy it. Hopefully you'll enjoy sharing it with us, which is getting into those conflicts of interest.
Yes.
And, of course, how to find the people that you need to be able to do these things, right?
Right.
So this is Real Talk Radio San Diego, and you're in the stash, baby. This is Jesse Ibanez, co-founder of the Greenhouse Group, helping you out with all your real estate needs. Of course, this being atop the list. We'll be right back.
Your golden years. You've planned for everything, but have you really covered all your bases? Let us help you learn to ask the right questions. Do your plans consider changes to your health? Will you have enough money to maintain your quality of life? And who's going to help you when you need help? The Salvation Army and their charity partners present Estate Planning 101, a series of free classes that will educate and empower you as you plan for your future. Free classes start June 2nd. Visit estateplanning101.org and register today.
What's happening, gang? You are live back in the Secret Stash, and we promise to grab some cool local people doing cool local stuff, and I think we fit the bill pretty good this week because we're hanging out with Marguerite Lorenz. And come on, man, if you've been hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes, you definitely learned at least one thing. Come on, right?
Yeah.
I know I did. It's several things. And, I guess if there's something that I'd love for you to leave us all with is give us like an action plan, like something like a sock in the chin to get us up off of our impetus to get into one of these classes. Like,
you
what's
matter.
the class about? Like, let's do this.
You matter. What you have to say, what you want to have happen matters. You are worth it. It may cost you $1,500 to $2,500 to get an estate plan that is workable and that someone in your life can implement for you when the time comes. Remember, the time comes when you become incapacitated. You're just too tired and you resign or you die. And we're living so long these days. I just had a client who passed away who's 101. A new client just signed me up to be her fiduciary. She's 100.
That's incredible.
Okay, so you might be 50 years old and think you have plenty of time to think about this, but I also want to remind you, accidents happen, stuff happens. We're not going to focus on the morbid. We're going to focus on the quality of life. We're going to focus on what you want and how you make it happen. And this class, I've been told by my students, is very empowering.
Yeah.
You really feel like you have better knowledge, you understand the complexity, and you're ready to make certain choices and get them in writing. So if you're at that place in your life where you realize, you look around and you say, I'm grateful. If you can actually say you're grateful for your life, you must get your estate plan. Suggestion 1, make the appointment with an attorney. Don't wait. Don't wait until you take the class to make the appointment, because you have to have the initial appointment anyway to get things started. And I don't know about you, but when I have an appointment, then I get ready for it. Okay? And if you want to, you can sign up for class and make an appointment after that. Maybe you want referrals to local attorneys.
That's what I was going to suggest, is maybe they don't have someone they trust yet.
Right. So come to class.
Right.
Okay? I have attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors, planned giving directors, geriatric care managers. I have people that come to speak to you about their expertise and their topics.
And and you're not just in San Diego, too. You've stretched out to Temecula and Newport Beach. So, like, maybe if the family member is not exactly in town here, or you're dealing with properties that are kind of spread out a little bit regionally, Marguerite still got you covered.
Well, and I have a secret for your listeners. Before we've published anything, we are getting DVDs of the class ready. So if you want to, you can come to the website, register, and as soon as we have those DVDs of our classes ready, they will be for sale. I'm with 2 weeks out, so
I love it.
You're first to hear about it.
I love that. And by the way, that site is estateplanning101.org. She's got classes in June. She's got classes in July. She's got classes in August. She's basically got you covered all throughout summer. So you got no excuses to not go out and get yourself a plan, to get yourself educated. And I love that thought, too, because, we talked during the hour about wanting to maintenance this thing over time. Like, you don't, like Billy Mays, you don't set it and forget it.
Right.
This isn't like the silly putty or the sticky putty or whatever.
It's your life.
But even if you just do that, even if you just set it up and then you never think about it again, you're still better than over 50% of the people that got no plan.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And really, if you have a body, you need a plan. You can't just expect someone else in your life to show up and know what to do. We don't live in that culture anymore. We don't all stay in the same household. Our kids move away. We've moved away from our parents.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about our expectations. And we also have to really understand what we're asking of someone. We're asking someone else to become 100% responsible for all the choices I've already made and the new choices that are going to be made based on my circumstances.
Even down who's going to bathe you.
Right. And it's never going to be my son. It's never. I promised. And by the way, if you haven't thought about long-term care insurance, if you don't know what questions to ask about what should be in your estate plan, if you don't even know what the documents are, don't worry. Don't worry at all. Just come to class. You'll find the students are very warm and welcoming. I have a lot of repeat students because they love being part of this community. And it's easy. We make it easy. You leave with your own binder. We have places where you can actually write your own thoughts and your own feelings about things. You can take that binder with you to your estate planning appointment. You win. And it's free to attend. If you come to class, it's free.
It's what?
Free.
That was an homage to Derek right there.
I appreciate that. And it's charity sponsored.
Right.
You know, it's not like we have commercial sponsors. There's nobody there to sell you anything.
Right. You know, and I loved also that you had shared that you don't want to have people taking drinks with fire hoses, right? I mean, you want them to have the nourishment that they need to actually go out and take action from the class. But you get into some stuff.
We do.
Like, I'm surprised that you even go down into that, like, you know, even like maybe even from an efficacy standpoint of like annuities versus reverse mortgages. I was shocked to hear that.
Right? The comparison between a reverse mortgage and a charitable gift annuity. But here's the thing. We meet 4 times, and I did it on purpose. I've tried this class every which way, you know, once a week for 8 weeks. And, you know, the idea is that you have time to absorb because you're not just going to have intellectual thoughts that you haven't thought before.
Yeah, you go back about your life.
You're going to have feelings.
Right.
You're going to have process. And by the way, it's a safe place to have that. And so I just want to invite you, try it. Come to just the first day. Register and just come June 2nd. You will be blown away by how much we share with you.
And that's right down in Balboa Ave.
Yeah.
So if you're here local, you can't miss that. That's at 4170 Balboa Ave. But rather than writing that down, just know that the first day is June 2nd. By the way, do you know what day that is actually?
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. So Tuesday and...
You have to register.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Right.
Okay, good. And then it's in the mornings, you said, too, right?
9 to noon.
9 to noon, right. So you can still go about the rest of your day. Just got to make some accommodations. But before you do any of that, go down to estateplanning101.org, okay, and get your name signed up, reserve your seat.
You are worth it.
Nothing happens before that. I'm going to tell you what, Marguerite Lorenz, you are worth it, girl, because
thanks.
you brought it today. I actually am so excited that you came, but I had no idea how much you were going to deliver in this class. I mean, during our time together. I can't imagine what this class is going to be like.
You should see the pile of reading materials Jesse has now.
You're not lying. When you check out the video, you can see. I look like I'm going through a dissertation right here with all this stuff. So if I'm getting this, I can't imagine what's going to be in that binder that you get when you go to that class. So once again, Marguerite, thank you so much for hanging out in the stash today. If you got anything from this, you might want to go back and check out the rebroadcast we're going to have live in 2 days over on secretstashradio.com, along with this really cool, glossy little handout that you got, which is called Who Needs a Professional Fiduciary Anyway? And you got to get that class, of course, estateplanning101.org. Marguerite Lorenz, thank you for being in the stash.
Thank you so much.
And for you guys, we'll be right back after the top of this break with a Real Estate Roundtable 3.0 2015 style. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back.